Hello everybody and welcome to another tier list. This time it will be for Khepri the new god in Smite. Before we jump into this tier list, I just want to update you guys on where the channel is right now. So I've been having a lot of computer problems and network problems lately, which is why I have not been able to put anything out the last few weeks. I'm trying to get everything solved as soon as possible so I can get back to my regular schedule as far as when I'm playing and how often I'm getting videos out. But for now, what I'm able to do is very limited. Basically, right now, I can record anything that runs in a web browser, and possibly if I run games in Windows mode, I might be able to record them with this default program I have on my computer. We'll have to see. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump into this tier list. I am not using DM Brandon's tier list this time. That is because his tier list is not editable. At least it wasn't the last time I checked. I couldn't drag and drop. So I've switched to using this one. It is on bamfrody.com/tiers. I will leave a link to it in the description so you can make your own tier list. It has the same basic format as DM Brandon's tier list as far as the tiers are concerned. So let's go ahead and hop into it. First, let's start off with what the different tiers are for those of you who haven't seen one of my tier list videos in the past. The SS tier, your SS tier is basically your super OP gods that are completely broken. And if you have this god on your team, you automatically win the game no matter what else happens, because that god can just carry and win the game by itself. Alright, the S plus tier, these are your top pick, top ban gods. Really, really strong and can really fit onto any team and perform well. S tier, slightly below, these are your gods that are generally going to make up, most of the composition of your team, and can really be put into just about any team comp and succeed. S minus tier, just slightly below the S tier, of course. Your A tiers. Your A tier is the focal point of balance. A tier gods in their current state and in the current meta of the game are completely balanced, and if you're a new player, you're really going to want to try to focus a lot of time into these A tier gods, because these A tier gods are not likely to be changed with rekits or even too many buffs or nerfs, because they are perfectly balanced in their current state. Your B tier, these gods are slightly weaker than your A tier gods, and they need a little bit more synergy within compositions to be able to be played effectively. You have to kind of build around having this god on your team, or pick it as a counter pick to some of the other gods on your opponent's team. C tier, these are generally weak gods that really don't fit onto too many team compositions effectively, and you're not going to see them in high level play except for in the hands of complete masters of that particular god. And then the D tier, these are your weakest of the weak and are essentially non-viable in high level play. So let's go ahead and go through it. I'm just going to go ahead and start off by saying there will be no gods in the SS tier. Nobody is at that SS point, which is good, because you really don't want anyone in the SS tier. So Agni, we're going to start off with. Agni is a solid pick. We're going to go S minus for Agni. Agni will always be a good pick in any matchup with pretty much any team composition. He brings utility with his ability to stun characters in multiple different ways using his Noxus Fumes. as well as being able to have a lot of burst damage. He really walks the line between being a burst mage and a utility mage, and that's what makes Agni a solid pick in any situation. He also has arguably the best mage escape on a non-ultimate ability with his dash. Muzen Cobb, we're going to go with B tier for the god of bees. He's just not super strong right now. He got a buff not that long ago that added a disarm on his passive, as well as allowing his auto attacks to apply his passive. But still, when it comes down to it, he has no escape, and he's really easy to gank and kill and keep from reaching late game effectively, which is when Muzen Cobb really shines, as most hunters do. Pwash, we're gonna go with S- tier for Pwash. The nerf to his ultimate did not hurt him nearly as bad as a lot of people thought it would. Pwash overall is still a pretty strong god. He still has a lot of burst potential, and the zoning on his ultimate, even without the slow, is still fairly strong. But he's not necessarily good in every team comp, which is why he's more of an S- tier character than an S tier character. But you can still put him in just about any team comp and have him perform effectively. On her, A+. On her is a fairly balanced character right now. He is a little more early game focused than most other hunters and can play effectively in most team comps. He's just not as good of a pick as most other gods are. Anubis, he's going to come down to this C tier. Anubis in casuals is really strong because of his high damage potential, but that's not really what this tier list is based on, right? This tier list is mostly based on pro play, and for the same reason Muzen Cobb isn't that good, Anubis isn't that good. He just has no mobility, and you just camp him and kill him as many times as you can in the early game, so he doesn't get super strong late game because he's so far behind. Ao Kuang, S+. He's a really strong character right now. Ever since the huge meta change happened a couple months ago, where they moved the mid-harpy spawns back to 10 seconds, and Hog became unviable. That's when Ao Kuang really came back strong into the meta. He's got decent jungle clear without Hog, which is one of the reasons why he came back, and his kill potential is just outstanding, plus the buff that now gives him healing when he executes from his ultimate. Ao Kuang, super strong right now, top pick, top ban material, S+. Aphrodite, A tier. You can pick Aphrodite in some situations in the solo lane. You can play her to some extent in the mid lane, and to some success. And she's a fairly decent character. And overall is just a fairly balanced character right now. So Aphrodite A tier I think is pretty fair. Apollo, S-. Apollo is just on the cusp of being the top hunter. Right now he does not hold that spot. There are a couple hunters that we'll get to later that are stronger than Apollo, and that's why he's S-. But still, really, you can play Apollo in just about any team comp against any matchup, and he'll still do fine. His global ultimate is really popular, as all global ultimates seem to be in the game of Smite right now. So S- tier for Apollo. Arachne is going to come down to this B tier, and that's really mostly a meta thing, right? Like, there aren't too many assassins that are applicable in the solo lane right now, and that's where Arachne is really best at. You can play her in the jungle, but her clear is not great without Hog, so she wouldn't be a good choice in the jungle. And in the solo lane, the meta just doesn't really call for assassins outside of Bakasura, really, and some people have been throwing Kali into the solo lane because you can just make her a hyper farmer early in the game and then have her come on a little bit earlier than she was coming on from in the jungle. So Arachne being B tier isn't necessarily that she's a bad character, it's just she doesn't really fit this current meta in Smite, where a lot of the time you're putting a second frontliner in the solo lane as opposed to another hyper carry. Ares, A tier. Ares has a lot of damage potential, and his kill potential in lane early on in the game is good. However, his clear isn't great, so you really have to pair him with a hunter that has really good clear. And then, of course, if Ares gets behind, he becomes essentially useless because there's so much CC immunity in the game. Because everybody's buying beads. Almost everybody's buying beads. Plus, there's quite a few CC immune ultimates that can counter his ultimate. Artemis, B tier. She's just not super strong right now. You can play her some at the high levels, but her clear's not great. But what really makes her worse than other hunters that don't have great clear, like Shibalanke, for example, is that by the time Artemis comes online, her passive pretty much becomes useless. For those of you who don't know, Artemis's passive pretty much gives her extra crit chance. So early on, she has good boxing potential because of that crit chance. But by the time Artemis really becomes strong, she's already built into other crit items. So really that passive becomes mute. And her base numbers are just awful compared to most of the other hunters. So Artemis, a B tier character right now. Athena, S+. Athena is arguably the best Guardian in the game. She is viable in 4 different roles. Most viable in the support role. You can also play her in the jungle. Can also play her in the solo. And can even play her in the mid lane. Athena, very strong. Her second ability, Confound, which is a taunt, is arguably the best non-ultimate ability in the game. And of course, she has a global ultimate, which is really favored in this current meta of Smite. A Wheelish, we're going to go with A-. A Wheelish is pretty strong. Just part of the problem is that she has a pretty high skill cap, and not a lot of people are really utilizing a Wheelish to her full potential. And of course, she does take some setup as far as team composition is concerned. Because if you're going to play her to her full potential, you really need other characters on your team that have knockups, like Geb, for example, or a Habois. Or she has to be counterpicked against an enemy team that has a lot of jumps, like if they have a Hoon Bots and they have a Scylla, because her Sentinel counts as a jump. Hades, his one counts as a jump even though he goes underground. So a Wheelish is more of a pick that fits into certain team comps and then is a counter pick in other team comps. Bacchus, he's going to go an A- with a Wheelish. His clear isn't great. His damage potential isn't great. His stun on his Belge can be hard to confirm. And overall, he's just not as strong as the other supports right now. So we're going to have Bacchus in this A- tier. Bakasura, A tier. Bakasura was strong in the solo lane for quite some time, but he had some small nerfs plus some shifts in the meta. Have currently put Bakasura in a balanced state. You can still put him in the solo lane and carry with him, but you have to farm a little bit more and not just look for kills every time your ultimate is up, because he doesn't have quite the kill potential early game as he used to. Bastet is also going to go in this A tier. Bastet's a pretty balanced character, fairly strong. Her jungle clear is decent. Her jump is one of the better jumps in the game because you can jump to a place, use your other abilities, put your dot, apply the bleed, and then jump, drop your ultimate, and then go back to where you were, all in pretty quick succession. So Bastet, a fairly safe jungler, and has some solo lane potential, but again, assassins really aren't favored in the solo lane right now. Bellona S+, she's a top pick, top ban. She's really strong right now. Her ultimate brings a lot of utility, not only with the stun, but with the extra protections it grants her teammates. Her damage potential can be good. She, of course, has the auto attack block on her 1, and the disarm and some built-in lifesteal on her 3. And she can be played both in the jungle very effectively, and in the solo lane decently, and some people have even played her to good success in the support role, although she doesn't really have any peel, so I personally wouldn't recommend Bellona solo, or Bellona support rather, unless you're a pro player. Khepri, A tier. He's a fairly balanced character right now. He's got solo potential and jungle potential, and just Guardians in general are pretty strong currently in Smite. But Khepri overall is one of the weaker Guardians. But he does bring a good bit of control with 2 stuns and his tremble, and as well as his wall that can block people off. Chalk, A tier. He's another perfectly balanced character. He's a solo laner, and he's got good clear early game, and late game he transitions to basically like a second tank, and he just stands in front of people and hits them with auto attacks and gets in their way. Chang'e A-. She's just off of being a balanced character in this current meta, simply because for the most part, she's best in the solo lane because she has the mana buff in the solo lane. And if you put a Chang'e in the solo lane, she's probably just going to get ganked a lot and killed a lot. But if you don't gank and kill a Chang'e as many times as you can in the early game, in the late game she's going to be strong. Her damage potential is decent. She has the heal, and of course the huge stun that can stun the entire team if you can line it up. Kronos A+. He's a strong hyper carry. You can play him in the solo lane, you can play him mid lane, and you can also play him in the hunter role. He's pretty strong right now. He's got the stun. His ultimate that he can use as an escape, as well as a heal. So Kronos just a pretty decent character right now. Cupid, A tier. Cupid's alright. She's got the hearts he's got the hearts that he can use for sustain. But his wave clear isn't great. His ultimate is okay, but even when you have your passive stacked, it already diminishing returns itself. So Cupid, a fairly balanced character right now. Fenrir S+. What really brought Fenrir back into the meta was mostly Ratatasker, because Ratatasker was so strong when he was first SPL available, and Fenrir was the counter to Ratatasker because he can just brutalize him out of his dash, can stun him with his jump into a brutalize, and kill him pretty quickly. And then people started to realize that Oh, wait, Fenrir's actually pretty flippin' good, even when he's not counter-picking a Ratatasker. Either in the jungle or the solo lane, good spots for Fenrir right now. Fenrir overall, a strong character. S- for Freya. Freya is back thanks to pen boots once again being a thing. Magical characters once again have access to boots that provide flat penetration, which makes Freya good. You can she plays in the hunter role, even though she's a mage. You put her in the hunter role, you let her farm for 25 minutes, and then she shows up and kills everybody. Geb is going to go into the S tier. Geb is probably the second best support in the game behind Athena. His Geb shield is probably in the same argument as Confound for the best non-ultimate ability in the game. Geb is very late game and very defense oriented, and of course he has a huge initiate off his Cataclysm and good escape and chase potential with his 1. Guan Yu's coming down here into the C tier with Anubis. His heal is alright. It's not great, it's alright. But his kit just doesn't really synergize well with anything, and he's just overall not a good character right now. Hades, A+. I think is a good spot for him. Hades is pretty strong right now. He's got great potential in the solo lane. He can clear the wave very effectively early on, and even better so late. And then in the late game, he can become like a chalk in the sense that he can just stand in front of you and keep you from doing what you want, and you not be able to kill him for it because he's got a lot of defense. Habois, B tier, mostly because he has no escape, and so you just gank a Habois every chance you get and kill him. Because if Habois gets to late game and isn't behind, you are in trouble, because he can just push 3, push 1, and you're probably dead, and if you're not, then he just pushes 4, and then you're dead for sure. Hell is pretty much the same way. We're actually going to put her in A-, because she has been seeing some play and even some bans in the Pro League. Her healing is incredible. Her cleanse can be very strong in the same sense that the Geb shield is. Her damage potential is good. But again, she doesn't have any way to escape if she gets attacked. But if you let a Hell get to late game and she's not behind, you are in trouble. Hercules, he's going to come to this S- tier as well. He's a solid solo laner. He's a raid boss. He's very hard to kill, and his damage potential is still pretty good. And Ho Yi is going to come to A+. He's a really solid hunter right now. He's probably say top 5. He's probably the 4th or 5th best hunter right now. He's got the stun. His ultimate is really good at helping secure and zone away from the Gold Fury and the Fire Giant. And without Hog, that is something that's very big right now. Hoonbot's A tier. Hoonbot is a solid pick. You can pick him just about any time. And his ultimate is great for zoning, and his damage potential is pretty good, especially with the built-in crit chance from his passive. Isis is coming up to S+. Isis is probably the most picked or banned mage in the game. Maybe Giannis actually has a better pick or ban rate, but I just think Isis is a stronger character. She doesn't bring quite the mobility that Giannis brings, but she brings healing, and she brings a lot of CC. She's got a stun, she's got a silence, and her Wing Gust can be used either for damage or for an escape, which is something really nice to have in a mage. Giannis is going to come to this S tier. I think he's just a little bit behind Isis. His damage is pretty good, and he, of course, has arguably the best mobility in the game, because he has the movement speed buff and the movement speed debuff that when it applies to enemies, the portal that he can use for movement for himself or his teammates, and his ultimate that can teleport his whole team across the map. Giannis, S tier character. Kali, S minus. Kali has come back since that big meta shift, because basically there's more jungle camps are spawning. Camps are spawning faster, which means they're spawning more times in a game, which means Kali gets more farm, which means she gets to that late game that wasn't happening before. Games were ending quickly, and Kali just could not come online before games ended. Now games are lasting longer. There's more farm on the map, and that has been wonderful for Kali to come back as a huge hyper carry out of the jungle. Kumbhakarna, he's coming down here to the B tier. His wave clear ability is his escape, which is his 1, and that's never a good thing. And he's got a lot of soft CC and then the knock up on his ultimate, but really he doesn't have a huge hard CC. He's got a single target CC, but he doesn't have an AoE CC, which is something that is pretty valuable in Guardians right now, which is why I'm really curious to see where Khepri will fit in, because he doesn't have that huge AoE hard CC. But he does have a lot of buffs he can give to his teammates, debuffs he can put on enemies. He's got some hard CC in a pull that's single target, and of course his revive. So we'll have to see how Khepri fits in. Kukulkan, A tier. Kukulkan is a very balanced character. He's got good wave clear, he's got the slow, he's got good PvP damage, but basically what it comes down to is, did you hit your ultimate? If you're in a team fight as Kukulkan, if you hit your ultimate, you probably won the team fight, but if you missed your ultimate, you probably lost it. So Kukulkan, A tier character right now. Loki, A plus. Loki's a decent solo laner. He's a really annoying character. He can be hard to track down, hard to kill if his stealth is up, and his split push potential is just amazing, which can really help teams come back from deficits. Medusa, S tier. Medusa is probably the best hunter in the game right now. If you pair Medusa up with Athena, you're in good shape, because Athena taunts everybody in and forces them to look at the Medusa ult, and then you kill them. And Medusa, even without Athena, has good wave clear, good damage against opponents. The dot on her 1 is huge, and she has a dash that she can use offensively to root someone or defensively to escape. Mercury, and probably C tier. Mercury's just not that strong. Heartseeker's gone, and that was a good item for him. But it seems like there's been a lot of little things over the last year that have changed, that have just made Mercury just fall down this tier list to where he is now. Neith, A tier. Neith is pretty balanced. She's not as strong as she was earlier on in this Smite Pro League season. Basically when Heartseeker became the go-to thing for hunters, Neith shot straight to the top. But that's now has gone by the wayside, and Neith is back to the balanced state she was in before. Nemesis, A tier. Nemesis is pretty good. She's got a lot of slow. The reflect on her shield is nice, especially against compositions that have a lot of dots. Because if somebody applies a dot to you, you can pop your shield and do a good bit of reflect damage back to them. And then, of course, her double dash. Naja, B tier. Naja just isn't super strong right now. They made a change to Naja not that long ago, where they made his passive give you a heal when you activated your 2, but that was kind of weird because Naja usually used his 2, which is a attack speed buff, before he went into a fight, and now he needs to use his 2 either after a fight or when he's in the middle of a fight for the heal. Basically, Naja would, pop his 2, use his armillary sash, go in and start attacking. Now he has to stack up his passive, use his armillary sash, go in, attack some more, take some damage, then pop his 2 for a heal. And basically, when you're using the 2 specifically for the heal from your passive, then you lose what it's really for, and that's the attack speed buff to combo with your other abilities for kill potential. Nox, A tier. Nox is pretty deep. We're going to go A tier for Nox. I think Nox is a little underrated in the pro scene. She's got good CC with the silence and her root. She can root you in the silence that then erupts and does damage. Her ultimate is pretty strong, and of course she has a dash and she can go inside of her teammates and then pop back out and do damage. So I just think she's really underplayed for how strong she is. Maybe as time goes on and we get closer and closer to the next Smite World Championship, maybe we'll see some more and more play out of Nox as maybe people will realize her potential a little more. A tier for Nuwa. She's pretty balanced. She's got good wave clear potential with her 3, and then her 2 combo with her 3, and she's got the stun and then the global vision and global damage on her ultimate. Odin, we're going to put Odin A-. He's really a bit of a niche pick. You really kind of use him as a counter pick when you need to. His damage potential early game is great, but he kind of falls off late. But he has one of the lowest cooldown ultimates in the game, his Ring of Spears, that can trap people in if they don't have a jump or a teleport, and they can't heal inside of it, so it's good against strong healing comps. Osiris is going to come to this S- tier. He's one of the better solo laners. Actually, we're going to move him S tier because he's probably the best solo laner right now. Is Osiris. Him and I think Sun Wukong are pretty good. Probably the best 2 solo laners. Osiris, now that Chin size is a little more usable again, that has helped him. But he's got, good wave clear. He can lock down opponents pretty easily with his Judgment Tether and Sickle. And overall, Osiris is just a really good solo lane bruiser. Poseidon, A+. Poseidon is still pretty good. He's not as favored as much as he was earlier on in the season, but he's still good. Kraken is still one of the harder hitting mage ultimates, and his wave clear is pretty darn good. Ra, A tier. Ra is very balanced right now. His healing is good, his wave clear is good, his ultimate is good, but he just doesn't really bring anything really over the top to a team to make him higher on the tier list. Rom, S tier. If you're not going to pick Medusa, you should probably pick Rom. Rom is probably the second best hunter right now. His attack speed steroid is insane. And his ultimate is one of the better hunter ultimates in the game. So Rom, S tier. Character, Ratatasker, A tier. The nerf hit him, but I really don't think it hit him quite as hard as everybody thinks. He's still pretty darn good, and you can still play him to good success, especially out of the jungle. Robin, we're going to put Robin in the B tier. A lot of people are probably going to cry that he's not in the D tier, but He's not as terrible as everybody thinks. The problem is that what he's good at, there are some other characters that are just better at it, right? His kit still isn't great, but it has the potential to maybe become good enough to complement his insane attack chain. But overall, basically what Robin does well, Osiris and Kali do better. Okay. Scylla, A+. Scylla's a pretty strong mage. She's got a really darn good ultimate. Her wave clear isn't great at the beginning, but it, she comes on late. And she has probably the second best mage escape on a non-ultimate with her Sentinel. S tier for Serket. She's not the top pick, top main she once was, but she's still really strong. The poison really can stack up quick and kill you quick with Serket, and her clear isn't too bad. Sobek S-, he's still good in the solo lane, and he's still pretty darn good in the support role. So Sobek S-. Wukong is back. I'm not quite sure what happened that brought Wukong back, but Wukong is back. He is one of the best solo laners in the game right now. His clear is good. He's got the Tiger Stun, but more importantly, the Ox knock-up. And, of course, his ultimate is one of the better warrior ultimates in the game. Sylvanas, S tier. Sylvanas was SS for quite a while. S+ for quite a while. He slid down a little bit. Basically, more supports are becoming more viable, which has kind of hurt his viability. And he's one of the least mobile Guardians, and mobility is kind of an important thing in this current meta. To be able to get around the map, now that jungle camps are spawning more often and the mid-harpies spawning at 10 seconds. But he's still good. He's still got good lane clear and his heal, and really good initiate off of his Wrath of Terror. And good CC combo with the root into the pool, into the ultimate, that can not only lock somebody down, but also do some pretty good damage. Thanatos, A tier. He's pretty balanced. He's got a really strong early game and not quite of a strong late game. He's got good CC, but overall he's not super strong. Thor S tier. He, like Serket, is not the top man, top pick he once was, but he's still one of the best junglers. His clear is good. His damage is really good, but he also has a really good control with 2 stuns in his kit. Tier is A tier. He's pretty balanced. He's got good CC chain and some heals built in. And his ultimate is good, but he's just, not the best solo lane warrior. So he's really in a balanced state right now, so I think A tier is perfect for him. Ullr, A+. He's a pretty solid hunter. He also has some good solo potential. He's got good wave clear. And with the prevalence of Bellona, kind of makes Ullr pretty good because the stand switch kind of negates the disarm. Vamana, A-. Again, this is another character I'm probably going to get some complaints that he's not lower. Basically, just because Sprint 3 is gone doesn't mean Vamana is now bad. You just have to build Fatalis. He's still decent, right? Like, he's not as good as Osiris. He's not as good as Wukong. He's not as good as Hercules. But he's not terrible either. Not as terrible as everybody thinks. Vulcan, we're going to put him in the A tier. He's pretty balanced. He does a lot of things decent, but nothing super well, unless you hit your ultimate from max range and insta-kill somebody. Xbalanque, A+. His global blinding ultimate is pretty strong. He's got dot damage. He's got a CC immune dash. His wave clear's not great early, but he's one of the hardest hitting hunters late game. Ymir S tier. Ymir is a solid support. You can play him really well in the support role, but you can also play him in the solo lane, and you can also play him really darn well in the jungle. His damage potential for a Guardian is pretty insane. So Ymir S tier. Zeus C tier, maybe B tier, but he's like he's like Anubis, right? Like, he doesn't have any mobility, but he has a lot of damage. But Zeus is getting reworked, so for all intents and purposes, we're going to move him up to new because he's getting a whole new kit. And Zhonghui A tier. Zhonghui has the dot, has the heal, that when you combine him do a lot of damage. He's got the stun, and a lot of AoE damage in his ultimate. But basically, he just doesn't have the control that Isis has or Agni has, and he doesn't have the damage that Alpwash would have, or Poseidon would have, or Scylla would have. So that's why he's ranked below them. So that's your tier list for Khepri patch. Is Khepri the new god? Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you want to see more. And let me know in the comments what you think about this tier list. If I rank someone too high, if I rank someone too low. And, we'll have a little discussion about it. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.